Who the Wild Things Are with Ryan McGuire.
You gotta listen to your body.
Oh my God, maybe, I could get out there, I could do this.
Let's take a ride, find your wild side, real stories, see with your own eyes.
It's so beautiful.
I'm gonna have the best time out here.
I was in tears. I was like, that's the best, man.
Welcome back to Who the Wild Things Are. My name is Ryan McGuire, and I'm here to bring you conversations with the most wild folks on the planet. If you're enjoying the podcast, please leave us a rating and review on your podcast platform of choice. And if you enjoyed the episode, share it with a friend. Appreciate you guys. Let's get it going. Okay, July 1st to the 5th, the Primitive Skills Run is returning to Colorado. What this means is we're going to be doing an ultralight trip, learning how to live off the land, learning how to forage wild edibles and catch fish, living really like our ancestors used to. It's going to be July 1st to the 5th. To sign up, you can go to thesurvivaluniversity.com or you can go to the link in my bio. And remember, you don't have to be a runner necessarily to go on the Primitive Skills Run, but you do need to have a general level of fitness. If you have any questions, I can provide all the information. Just reach out to me personally or check out the website for more details. Hope to see you in the bush.
All right. Welcome back to Who the Wild Things Are. We have the man Jason Hardrath in the building. Last time you were physically in the building. This time we are virtual, so I don't get to see your cute face in person. But great to check in, man.
Yeah, that goes both ways. Don't get to look at that handsome mug of yours in person.
Yeah, you don't have to smell me either, which is probably good right now. I just got done with like an uphill session. I probably smell rancid.
Nice. Worth it.
Yeah, got to get it done. As you know that as much as probably anyone on the planet. You've done plenty of uphill yourself. For people that maybe didn't catch episode 1 with Jason Hardrath, give people like kind of a background of your mountain expeditions in the past and then kind of this like transitory period that's going on.
Yeah, so probably what I'm most known for is being the first person to set 100 FKTs. And the most notorious of those was climbing Washington's 100 tallest peaks in 50 days. A lot of those peaks are remote and off trail and involve navigation and glacier travel and rock climbing. A lot of mixed skill sets, and a lot of all of the speed records, the FKTs I chased before that, involved mountain movement, technical terrain, route finding and the like. Just fell in love with that after a different transitory period. I had a big car accident. It kind of pushed me out of kind of the triathlon and competitive racing. I'm sitting in my office for those that aren't watching video, and I have 150 bib numbers on my office wall behind me to provoke conversations with my students about life and discipline and living a good adventure. And yeah, so I guess that's the quick flyover of me going uphill, as we already alluded to. And kind of hit another interesting road bump in life, another big setback. Had some really serious long COVID just symptoms, and it really affected my capacity to train and my mental clarity, my mood. Just felt like it took me a long time to put it together, because when we sort of get sick slowly and it's chronic, it's like you constantly want to make those like excuses, and they're reasonable. Like, oh, I'm still just a little bit off. I'll bounce back. It took me a long time to put together that it's like, oh, I need to reframe and kind of reset and figure my body out and let my body have time to heal and recover from this and start taking seriously my health and wellness. It was a pretty serious reframe there. And yeah, in the meantime, like as I sort of saw all of these huge mountain projects that were sort of continuing in sequel to the big things I had already done, watching those just sort of like evaporate and disappear into the fog in front of me as I was, muddling through the swamp. I took up paragliding because I knew I needed something to be experiencing growth and mastery, that positive momentum that wasn't based on physical fitness and endurance. Everything prior in my life had always been sort of based on having a strong body, having a fit body, being the guy who could go further and faster and longer than anybody else. And so, yeah, pivoted and took up a new skill. And yeah, I guess that's what we're here to talk about.
Yeah, I like the pun in the beginning, the flyover. I caught that. So anyone who isn't catching on yet, Jason's got away with words, and there will be eloquent drops throughout this thing. Yeah, I think that's a great intro into this, because the first one, obviously, there's that first period you're talking about where it's kind of that gut wrenching, very visceral, intense car crash, and that's one kind of pain. But then there's this other kind of pain, which I know a lot of endurance athletes have dealt with. I dealt with it 2 years ago, which is kind of this. We bucket it as like chronic disease for whatever version of it you may have experienced. Yours was long COVID, mine was a stomach thing, but basically being sick for days, weeks, months on end. For an individual like you, so much I imagine of your happiness, the way you identify yourself, your ego, your identity is wrapped up in movement. And when you get sick, sure, you feel like shit, like physically, but you also have like this entire um, kind of like falling away moment where you're like, how do I grasp onto this stuff? And I know I went through all of this 2 years ago. So I'm curious, kind of when you went through your bouts with long COVID, let's talk about kind of the depths of it. Um, what was going through your mind? What were the symptoms, and what was that struggle like, kind of at the lowest points?
Just diving in the deep end.
You knew what to expect here,
Oh,
brother.
I knew it was coming, and you knew you knew that I'd be up for it. Yeah, man, I mean, it really is all the things you mentioned, right? It's like hopes and dreams, identity, ego, some of my, subsistence, because I signed contracts with different brands to go out and do big projects and make content around them. Being this like athlete, both in identity and in like function, and just feeling like all of it was just sort of evaporating. I think like one of the worst parts as well was like I'd show up in a mountain town or some place where someone would recognize me, and someone would start talking like, oh yeah, this is, Mr. FKT this, FKT that, this guy's like da da da, and just feeling like I'm not that guy anymore. Like I don't deserve to have this person talking about, because I don't know if I can do that stuff anymore. I don't know if I'll ever be able to do it again, just being in the midst of losing that confidence and feeling like that identity and all those dreams and missions that are tied into that. And for me, a big part of it, right, being a school teacher, like all along, a big part of why I did what I did is it felt like it gave me this authentic permission to speak big dreams into people's lives, to like urge them forward. It's like, do I still have permission to do that? Like if I can't figure out how to move forward in this, if I can't be the guy doing this stuff anymore, do I still have permission to like be on those platforms and speaking to people in that way? And so that whole sort of means of meaning, right? That purpose felt like it was broken as well. And then, yeah, like that by itself is a struggle, but tie that in with like waking up and like just being in a horrible like mood, just waking up like depressed and having these like really negative thoughts, and like feeling like half my memories are erased, where I just don't recall and remember. Right. Part of why we do the stuff we do as people who chase this stuff is that we chose, I want to bank my life and time on experience and the memories and being the person out in the real stuff, and to just feel like all of that has been dimmed down and erased and is lost in the fog as well. Not just what's out ahead, but what's behind. Where it's like, wow, like my mind isn't there. And all of these beautiful memories feel like they're distant and hard to recall. It's like a challenge looking forward and a challenge looking back at the same time. And then, right, being physically oriented people, when we get frustrated, when we're angry, when we're sad, one of the main things we reach for is I'm going to go work out because it makes me feel better. And to have that go backwards as well, where instead of, oh, the workout made me feel better, the workout made me feel worse. Now I'm more depressed. I'm just have this random body pain that makes no sense for the workload that I did. It's just like being exercise intolerant. And so it's like your whole relationship with yourself is just skewed and messed up. Everything that used to make sense doesn't make sense anymore. It's like, who is this person I'm inside of? So very confusing, very like disorienting, hard to like figure out how to take a step forward because those levers you used to pull to take a step forward don't work anymore.
Yep, totally. I just did that. Like I was funky this morning. I was like getting frustrated around things. I was like, all right, I'm gonna go, spend 90 minutes, sweat my ass off, come back, head's refreshed, we're back. But it's like you're in this headspace, and the thing you usually do that fixes that now is going to make it worse. So now it's like, okay, I gotta like back solve here for another way to fix my mood, fix my mind, fix my body.
Yeah, it was a long and painful and disorienting process, and I'm definitely not fully out of the tunnel yet. I feel like I can see the light. And I've taken 2023 was a weird year for me. I was like, on the one front, it was like I had more brand deals and all this stuff than ever before. I'd like doubled my teacher income. I was in the six figures. And so it's like, it should have been like, hell yeah, what an awesome year. I'm going to do all these awesome things with this extra income, this extra revenue to like create more adventures and more experiences for people and more inspiring content. And instead it was also the worst year of my adult life since the year the car accident happened in 2015, because I was just so disoriented and so like aimless and in so much pain and so much depression. And like you build to go out and do these like big solo mountain pushes, like you build an incredible mindset to be able to go out and like march for 100 miles through the middle of nowhere under your own power. And so your mind is like very good at like sort of like identifying the suffering and like locking it down and orienting it like positively or whatever, or manageably, and like moving forward. And so I remember like waking up in the morning and having these like, I'm still alive. Like I have to go on for another, and then my brain would like lock it down and I would go get what I needed to get done that day. But like finally I started like paying attention to that, like, whoa, I'm waking up with these like really negative thoughts that like slip through the cracks before that mindset sort of like locks them down and gets me moving forward. And between that and noticing that I was like, it was sort of like, you're at mile 63 of 100-miler, right? There's no light at the end of the tunnel yet. You're just in the suffering. And I'd be in that kind of a low, like just grit your teeth and get through till you can see the light at the end. And it's like, this is a 1 hour easy run. Like why 35 minutes into what should be like an easy, casual, lighthearted workout am I having to like grimace my way through it? It's like,
was it like body aches? Was it what did it feel like in your body?
It was like simultaneously it was like it hurt way more than it should. There was none of that runner's high or pleasure So it was absent of pleasure. It was more painful at any given pace or effort level. And I was just like hating the experience and unmotivated. So like all of that whole concoction together. And yeah, just like going, okay, clearly I'm an idiot and I'm really stubborn. And something is seriously wrong here. And I just need to be willing to fully step back and like relinquish the attachment to this identity, relinquish the attachment to, oh yeah, I'm going to bounce back and I'm going to do this kind of stuff again soon. And I need to be willing, sort of like the car accident closed the chapter on me running, Boston qualifying times and, qualifying for Ironman 70.3 World Championships. It's like I need to be willing that if it's time for this chapter to close and COVID killed that guy, FKT Jason is dead, I need to be willing to go, okay, here's this new guy. I need to be willing to write a new chapter. I need to be willing to start over again and see what this guy with who he is and his limits, what he can build and what he can do and how he can move forward and how he can find some version of what he loves in this life to manifest. And I think that was a big like turning point for me to sort of once again release myself from being stuck in my own shadow, from being stuck in generating another sequel to the grand adventure. Yeah, one people's favorite question when you're the guy that goes and rattles off 100 peaks or 122 peaks in record time is like, oh, what's next? Expecting you to be like, oh yeah, well, I'm going to go down to South America and do these 100 peaks or whatever, some next big grand adventure that's even more inspiring and even more monumental. And to like be willing to let go of having that and providing that to people and going down that path for myself. So yeah, it was like a lot of different layers all sort of packed together.
Okay, great news. For 2026, Last Mountain Man Standing is returning to Conifer, Colorado. What that means is we're going to be racing through the Rocky Mountains. It's a 4-mile loop with Mountain Man style obstacles. If you make it through the loop in 1 hour, you get to keep going. If you make it through 6 loops, the 7th loop is a race on the same course to decide the last mountain man and woman standing. They will each win the cash prize and take it home with them, be crowned victorious. If you don't want to get competitive, you just want to come out, we're going to have a beautiful mountain camp set up with vendors, good vibes, everyone hanging out. You can do a single lap. We call that the Foxtrot for a discounted price. And ultimately, it's just a great day in the mountains. July 18th is when it's going down, and I hope to see you guys there.
You got into the paragliding thing at first. Like I remember watching it from afar. It definitely seemed like kind of, you were dipping your toe in. I have a good buddy of mine. Have you ever heard the name Rylan Schadegg?
I want to say I've heard the name before, but I'm not drawing up a face or a hit list.
It's a really impactful story that we'll circle back to here. But you two were really the only people I knew that were endurance guys that were into paragliding. He had a throat thing, world-class athlete, and got really into paragliding because he could walk uphill and fly down. And then I saw you, and it was like almost like these two tangential stories. And I saw it first, I was kind of like, okay, Jason's like, making lemonade with the lemons he's been given. He's trying to figure out a way to explore the next grand adventure. And it seems like it's paragliding. In the beginning, from where I stood, it was kind of dipping your toe in. Now you are fucking in it. So talk to me about the journey of kind of learning this new medium for expression and how that evolved over the coming months.
Yeah, so I was still kind of in the lows of it as I made the decision to take it up. Like I knew it wouldn't, there wasn't a ton of stoke in my life. There wasn't a ton of energy. There wasn't, right? But it was like I knew I needed to find a way forward. and to fight towards some kind of light and growth. And I mean, I remember showing up to the training hill. I paid an instructor, Brian Kerr of Air Expansion Paragliding, to like learn the proper courses through a P2 certification, because it's a new medium. Like there are ways the air can kill you, and it's not something you can see. It's not always, on one hand it's intuitive, but it's not always intuitive until you know where to look. Like any expert thing, like part of being an expert is where to look and why you're looking there to understand what your dangers are. And the air is like swirling all over the place, just like rapids running down a river. There are eddies, and there's upward air and downward air, and you put yourself in the wrong aspect of a mountain and you get slammed into some cliffs or a tree, and you end up broken or dead. And so it's like, okay, I'm normally a DIY guy. Like I taught myself mountaineering and rock climbing. I didn't ever take a course from anybody else. I've always kind of been that way, but with this one, I was like, yeah, especially since I don't feel like I'm all there, I'm going to go and take the slow boat and learn the right way and make sure I'm acquiring the correct like knowledge base to make good decisions from, before I start throwing myself out there and figuring it out myself and finding my own mentorship and my own communities to learn from. So yeah, I kind of like dipped in, and I mean, I remember being out on the training hill, and like, this is how bad it was. Like, it's like a 300-foot tall training hill, let's say, and just struggling, it being like mentally and physically taxing and exhausting to just hike back up for the next flight down, and just like having to put that voice of self-judgment like out of the way as I'm like, man, this is embarrassing that I'm, Mr. FKT, Mr. Mountain Guy, and this 300-foot hill feels absolutely taxing with a little bit of gear on my back to walk back up for my next learning flight. And yeah, so it kind of started while I was still in a low place, and but really dug in, and like, I mean, the moment my feet left the ground for the first time, it was like, oh yeah, this is going to be a big part of my life from here on out. So it did provide that bright spot. It did provide that like inspiration and sense of opportunity and sense of adventure. The sky crack is a good drug. And yeah, so I knew I was going to lean into it. And so once I graduated the P2 course and got that certification, I like leaned in pretty hard. And a lot of like traditional coaches and like, learners that come from a place of not having been adventure athletes prior are like, oh, you should only fly your home site with your home crew for like your first year to be safe. I immediately went and started flying different locations, but I knew why I was doing it. It was like, I'd built that schema for like, oh, okay, so, when you're along the coast and you have laminar air blowing in off the ocean, there are no thermals. And so you don't have to worry about thermic turbulence and crazy air. It eliminates that variable. So you could fly all day as a beginning pilot. And I'm like, oh, okay, like that's the place to go really learn how to handle a wing well, how to launch a wing well, land a wing well, get maneuvers down, practice different things. So I started going to coastal sites and putting in a ton of soaring time. Plus, if I was soaring, like there's less hiking involved while my body's like still messed up. So it's like I can log lots of flying hours with sort of minimal physical input. It could just be about the mastery of the wing and learning what inputs the wing needed to do different things. So like I instantly
talk to me real quick on that. When you say, imagine somebody's listening to this, no idea what paragliding is. How does the setup work? Taking off with the wing, what kind of gear are you wearing, and what are kind of like the basic premises needed to fly the paragliding?
Yeah. So basically a paraglider, it's not a hang glider. Hang gliders are the big triangular shaped ones that you have to like construct and haul on the top of a car. And you kind of are in a prone position underneath them. They're kind of monstrous and not very conducive to if you were to want to move in the backcountry. I knew I wanted to go the paragliding direction, perhaps because part of me was holding out hope that I was going to take it into the mountains and apply it to alpinism. Um, and so paragliding, it all fits in a backpack on your back. And as you get to be a better pilot, more capable of launching and landing, and your inputs are correct, your reaction time is correct for doing the right thing to keep the wing open and to pilot correctly, you can start getting on smaller and lighter wings and in smaller and lighter harnesses that offer you less protection. Like if you do hit the ground, the consequences are going to be worse. But you can start really lightening it up. I have a wing now that I can fit in a 9-liter running vest, where I have my harness, my helmet, and the wing all in a running vest. So it was like I knew that was a pathway I was interested in. This sort of ultralight, being able to move up into the mountains and then fly down, or fly to another peak and then climb it. So I chose paragliding because of its structure, where it could align with that sort of goal and mission. In paragliding, you would hike up a hill, or if you're at the coast, you're just above a cliff line or something where air is running into the cliff and coming up because of the cliff sort of redirecting it up and the air piling in on itself. And so that creates lift. And as long as you're in that lift band within a certain range, front and back of the cliff, you can sort of fly indefinitely. So you would set up above this hill you've climbed, or above this lift band of a cliff on the coast. You'd lay the wing out. You'd check all of your lines to make sure there were no knots or twists. You lay the wing out, you back up, you've checked the lines, you hook it into your harness that you've put on, and then you're going to kind of feel the wind, and you're going to pull the leading edge that captures the wind up into it, and then it's going to grab the wind, and you're going to move it up overhead, sort of kiting it. That as if any kid that's flown a kite to some degree, you manage to keep it into the wind so it doesn't rip around and crash into the ground. We all had that experience as kids flying kites, crash the kite. And so that's a skill in and of itself, just simply learning to kite the wing. And really it's a way, even as an expert pilot, I still spend, I guess I wouldn't call myself an expert, an intermediate level pilot. And I see expert pilots still doing this, spend a ton of time kiting, because the more skill you build kiting, the better you are at launching, the better you are at flying, the better you are at understanding your wing. The better you are at depowering your wing in high wind conditions so that it doesn't drag you after you land. So kiting is a foundational skill in itself. So you kite it up overhead, you turn, and you make sure everything's all good. The wing is solid above your head, and then you step off the cliff. Or if it isn't a wind situation, you run forward and inflate the wing, and when it's solid overhead, run down off the embankment or cliff or whatever it might be in front of you, and then you're off to piloting.
Yeah, it sounds epic. Probably a stupid question. You're familiar with Jamie Lead Speed Flyer?
Yeah, absolutely. He's absolutely insane. Anybody in the sport knows who that is.
Yeah. So I came across him, early Instagram days. It's he just was posting these videos of him doing these crazy maneuvers and just his feet inches above rocks while he's going Mach 5, crazy speeds, and doing it all with so much steez and love, and it was the chillest high consequence activity I'd ever seen in my life. I'd never seen anyone do anything like that. So I was maybe one day, I'm not at that level, but maybe one day I'll get into this. It involves getting into the mountain, probably takes you to really cool places, grand adventures. And then, I had my running coach at the time, Rylan Schadegg, who was into speed flying, or not speed flying, but paragliding. And then tragically this year, he actually passed away in Utah in a paragliding accident. And so I think when I think about him, I'm pretty confident if he was here, he'd be yep, no other way I'd rather go. He was just a mountain athlete at heart, one of the fittest people on planet Earth. I think I'd be comfortable saying that. I have an episode with him on here too. He was an amazing soccer player and then a pro mountain bike racer, then an elite 15 high rocks athlete, world champion Spartan runner. So, I mean, just really a monster of an athlete, but an even better person. Would give you the shirt off his back, and all he wanted to do was play in the mountains. And so after I had that experience, it just kind of fucking shook me. It woke me up, right? It's like, wow, this paragliding thing, I actually maybe should think about whether that's for me, because it definitely is one of those activities like mountaineering, right? Or any of the other crazy stuff that we do outside. Yeah, it's one of those things that has to be treated with reverence and respect. And you got to really think through every move you're making and making sure that the risk you're taking is something that you're comfortable with.
Yeah, no, it's absolutely true. I mean, I think what was the way Alex Honnold said it in free solo? I think he said, it's a lot of like free soloing is relatively low risk but incredibly high consequence. It's like
Correct,
the probability that you're gonna miss exactly the right thing and make exactly the wrong decision that creates the high consequence situation is relatively low if you really educate yourself well and go the correct way of learning and progressing within the sport. But if that perfect storm happens, or you do make that bad decision, your ego gets in the way and you make a decision based off ego rather than the elements around you, the consequence of that decision is incredibly high. I mean, you have a piece of cloth, you have magical bed sheets above you, holding you above the ground 50, 100, 300, 7,000 feet. And if you close that up, you're free falling.
Yeah.
So it's definitely substantially higher consequence than most of the things we normally relate to. And in a way, right, those of us that come from running and mountain biking and rock climbing, there's always this sort of like, you're soloing on a route and your foot pops a bit and you go, ah, and you stop and you take a deep breath and you reframe yourself and then you choose when you can continue. That's not paragliding. Paragliding is more like whitewater kayaking, where it's going to keep happening. Everything is going to keep happening until your feet are on the ground and the wing is closed up and put away.
Yep.
It's going to keep happening. And you can either continue to put in the right inputs at the right moment that give you the most optimal outcome, or you can just be along for the ride, but it's going to happen.
August 26th to the 30th, we are doing our Field to Feast trip. What that means, it's a 5-day trip where you're going to learn how to safely and responsibly dispatch an animal, process that animal, and learn to actually live on it while traveling through the wild with a band of beautiful humans. It's going to be in an amazingly beautiful area. We're going to learn how to forage wild edibles. We're going to learn how to make fire. We're going to learn all the skills you need to process an animal and use that animal, live with that animal for 5 days, and we're going to laugh a lot while we do it. So if you guys are interested, you can go to survivaluniversity.com, or you can go to the link in my bio on Instagram, or you can just reach out to me, ask me a question. I'll be happy to answer any questions. Love you guys. Hope to see you in the bush.
It's surfing 100-foot wave, right? The ocean is the next set is coming in on your head, whether you like it or not. You are a sitting duck in the water. It's like you can make decisions to prevent one thing from the next from happening, but there's no pausing. Like you said, you can't take a deep breath. The wave is here and it's right on top of your head.
Yeah. So it's definitely a different beast. And luckily I got my first, when I was still just a beginning pilot, it was like a kiting day where it started off more mild and then got strong kind of quick that day. And we were still just feet on the ground. And I had this little moment where something happened that, like, I think I got yarded up off my feet into the air by a thermal. And so I got lifted up and I wanted it to be over. So I pulled my brakes, which was exactly the wrong thing to do in the strong wind, because it moved the wing back into its sort of power band, where it started acting more like, say, like a kite surfing
Like a sail.
wing. Yeah, like a sail. And I just got drug. And it was like, oh, like this is what I can't, like I needed to keep flying the wing, even though I didn't want to be flying the wing anymore. There wasn't an option to just be like, oh, I'm done, pull the brakes. I mean, there are ways to depower a wing quickly, but it was like I made the wrong decision, and I went for a ride because of it. And I was fine. I just got yarded like 20 feet across the ground, and it was fine,
That's
and
like
laughed it off. But it was like that's
beautiful mishap, right? Like it gave you that, hey, by the way, this is something you need to be keeping in the back of your head. Like
the you don't get to choose when the ride ends.
Yep.
You have to be a pilot until the wing is down and folded up and put away, and then it can be over.
Mm. Yeah, it's one of the biggest questions I had, coming into this. Was just curious, like how you wrestle with that, and how you think about risk. I think when I think about, dangerous sports like base jumping or free soloing, you always look at it, you're like, well, there's not a lot of old dudes, right, that do it. And the reason is because like a lot of the greats, like you're talking about free solo, they do that montage, right, of all the greatest free climbers. And in each case, like they all had an accident and died doing what they loved. And so it's an interesting thing to think about, wrestling with mortality inside of the thing that you absolutely love. I always come back to the saying, which is like, nothing is as dangerous as sitting on the couch, because ultimately that will certainly lead to death, but a death that's a lot less fulfilled than doing all the epic shit that we're trying to do.
Yeah. I mean, it's like we've all heard the saying, the axiom. It's like all men die, but not all men truly live. And
That's a good one.
that it's wrestling with that question of, well, it's like walking a line, right? It's like walking a fine line. You're balancing on top of a fence, where it's like, I want to do the things that make me feel alive, and I realize those things increase the probability that I'll unalive myself.
Sure.
But to go without them would be some sort of life of quiet disappointment. And so you're trying to walk this line, and this is where all the beautiful things in life really are, is walking this line of doing dangerous things carefully, where it's like, what is the way I can approach this that I can be relatively sure that I'm minimizing those risks, that I'm making as reasonable of a decision within the decision of someone who chooses to hurl themselves off mountainsides into the air, but still pursue this thing I love.
Yeah, I heard somebody talking about it in the same sense with F1. They're like, oh, we could just make F1 drivers that are robots or AI, and like they would win, and like it would be great, and no one would die. And then, the other guy was like, no one would watch that. It's like, the reason people watch people drive fast in cars is because it's dangerous, and there's an element of fear and suspense and victory and glory at the end of it. And so that's part of the human element that we all, kind of are attracted to, whether it's us doing it or watching someone else. Speaking of watching people do it, been following this latest journey. Tell me a little bit about what's going on with the big missions for your paragliding right now.
Yeah, sorry about the big background noise. I've got a big water heater here.
Can't hear it.
And it
No
just
worries.
kicked on. Okay, cool. No, it's been fun recently. I've flown in a few countries now, but took a big trip and did a fun the United Kingdom has this UK National Three Peaks Challenge, and it's kind of like, oh, it would be fun to go attempt this 24-hour challenge where you you drive and try to climb these 3 peaks in a 24-hour period, but to fly off each one. And so went there over the summer and attempted that and did that. Made a little story with a pilot and creator there named Henry George, and we released that on YouTube. And so it was fun to kind of run a fun experiment with paragliding and kind of intertwining mountains. And then from there, jumped over to Norway and just had this absolutely amazing time with Nathan Longhurst. You've heard me bring him up before. He recently did what I think is one of the coolest adventures. It's right up there with Killian's States of Elevation project. He did New Zealand's 100 Greatest Peaks, and he did it as a climb and fly. And he used the flying very tactically to move more efficiently between the peaks. So he would fly across and land on a ridge line or land on a glacier and then climb the peaks there and then fly off so he wouldn't have to go back through the, on foot through consequential glaciated terrain. It was very tactical. And yeah, I think what he pulled off there was absolutely amazing. So anyways,
you still got to get him on the pod. Yeah.
You really do. He's incredible human, and you're going to have to chase him down because he doesn't chase any sort of attention himself. And it's one of the things I love and hate about him, because it's oh man, this is so inspiring. And he's just would rather be out tooling around, having a good time, flying and climbing and riding mountain bikes. And yeah, he's a beautiful human being. But yeah, invited Nathan to Norway and we got to speed fly. So for those who don't know, paragliding is a big wing, and sometimes you thermal up and fly long distance cross country flights by catching these thermals, which are columns of air going up, and they take you up to the base of the clouds, and then you glide as far as you can and then find another one, and you continue to link them together like a chess game to try to make the longest flight you can. And then there's this subsect of paragliding called speed flying, where you fly a much smaller wing that goes down very fast, and you can do barrel rolls and carve through the terrain. You alluding to Jamie Lee, speed flyer, that's what he's doing. If anybody wants a reference point of just how crazy speed flying can get, that's a great one.
Just look it up. Just do it. Yeah.
Just go, find him on Instagram or YouTube or whatever, and just watch a few videos, and you'll be like, oh my gosh, I think I just peed my pants, and also amazing.
It looks like AI. You got to maybe scroll back to prove to yourself that it's not AI, because it's that crazy. You're this has to be edited. There's no way this shit is real. But he's been doing it for a long time.
So getting to go fly lines like that, and I definitely don't fly that close to the terrain. I mean, on easier terrain, I'll get pretty close. But on the highly technical, couloirs and gullies, I'm giving myself a lot more space. But Nathan, he gets down in it. He's really pushing it. And so we went there and we made a short film together that we're calling Chasing Midnight Sun, because it was the time of year Midnight Sun was there in Norway. And yeah, just flew a lot of cool lines and just had this incredible experience with one of my longtime mountain buddies, in this new forum that both of us have entered of paragliding and speed flying. And just, it was a really cool kind of new chapter. And also kind of, for me in a way, right? Because I brought up how during the depths and the darkness of the long COVID and watching everything evaporate, and do I still have permission to be inspiring and speak to people and tell stories? It kind of was a little reclamation of that. I can rebuild, and I can find ways to, generate meaningful story and generate backing to pay filmers to come along and do some storytelling. So yeah, it was cool on multiple fronts, and to have my own piloting be in a place that there were a few of the lines that I flew that it was just oh my God, I nailed that. Yes. So yeah, it was a really cool experience to go to Norway. And then I went down, I'd done some sort of part-time agent work, if you will, since I built up this skill set myself over the years of chasing the FKTs, of interacting with brands and figuring out what's valuable for them, and closing my own brand deals. I was since I can't do this, I might not be able to do this for myself. Maybe I should just help some other people out that are chasing cool projects and help them like get a little bit of backing for projects they're working on. So there was this new X-Alps pilot, Seabrand, who ended up having this absolute epic. If people don't know what X-Alps is, go ahead and Google it. It's the Red Bull X-Alps. It's this craziest hike and fly event on planet Earth in the Alps. And I helped Seabrand like land some support for that. And so I then bounced over to France where he's been living to train for this thing. And he had an absolute epic he was the final finisher, the last one to land on the pad before the cutoff time. And won the like People's Choice Sportsman Award because he just like was like running through flooding streets during a storm to like try to keep the dream alive, and just like laughing as he was doing it. So I got to go meet him in person after helping him out, and he like coached me and chatted with me a bit, and we picked out a great day, and I flew my first ever 100+ kilometer cross country flight there from Chamonix, France to Visp, Switzerland, above the Alps there. And so
That's
just
an
kind of
epic
had an
ride.
absolute epic there. So yeah, it was a really cool summer, and like saw the dividends. So at the beginning of 2025, I set the goal of, I'm just going to try to follow an input goal of I want to fly more than 365 times this year, average a flight per day for an entire year. And so it was cool to see all of that where the year was very input oriented, to see it also lead to some like huge outcome goals. Some big breakthroughs, both with the speed flying and the cross country paragliding, that I moved forward and saw myself advance to levels where it's like, I'm kind of doing like big shit that I love to do. This is pretty awesome. So yeah, a very cool year this year. It was the growth that I would love to see.
Yeah, it's beautiful. The age-old question that everyone asks, which is what's next, I will reframe that instead, and I will say, what's the 2026 goal?
I think for 2026, one of the things that's calling to me in this vein is I'm really intrigued with a storytelling project that will take me to really extreme places, just to be there myself, to fly in them, to climb in them, to do a variety of sports in them. Whether it's erupting volcanoes and lava flows, or glaciers with massive hanging seracs, or endless rolling sand dunes, just going to these like extreme environments that are incredible to be in, that give you this like sense of place and the sense of awe. And to go do these activities that I love at whatever level, whether it's a completely docile flight from point A to point B just for the views, or a crazy flight threading the needle between a crevasse. But just to be in those spaces, being creative, experiencing them, and especially inviting others to like be able to come along and be a part of the story and be a part of the experience. And then to put that out there as sort of this homage, this invitation to adventure of look at the incredible places that following these adventures, that expressing these skills and sports and pursuits that make us feel alive. Look at where it can take us.
Yep.
Look at what we can be in the presence of. And yeah, the title, the working title, Elements, is what keeps coming to mind. Harkening back to like, fire and ice and wind and earth, and just kind of seeking out these like grand expressions of each of those
I love that.
to go play in.
Yeah, I love that idea, and I love the idea of human-powered movement that takes you to the coolest places you never would have gone otherwise. Yeah, running can be that way. Hunting is a great example. Like going on big backcountry hunts for days at a time, you explore these parts of the country that literally are the least population dense and no one writes about, and no one's ever been there. Like the climbing is another good one, right? Because you're looking for a really weird exact type of rock, that doesn't necessarily attract visitors. Yeah, all of those sports where you're going to places you otherwise never would have gone are things that I'm endlessly attracted to.
Yeah, same here. And so I like it's weird, having been so athlete driven in the past, where it was always about, oh, I'm going to do, this link up of peaks faster than anybody, or I'm going to do this group of peaks, or I'm going to run this trail, where it was all about sort of like me and my performance. It's really interesting to be in a place that's like, yeah, no, this time it's like not even about how extreme what I do there is. It's just about being in the place and doing something that I love, and
Yep.
hopefully having people that I love there as well to share it with. And so, yeah, I think that's a project I'm starting into this summer, and probably on my spring break as well. Just starting to find those places and be in them and capture some content from them. And
Beautiful.
then I think on the other hand of that, I'm also looking to lean more into the sort of speaking, inspiring, teaching aspect of my person and my identity as well, and seek out more opportunities to speak to groups and speak to clubs and speak to organizations, and to just like use this story to empower and embolden, especially those that are like working with young people or at-risk people through the medium of the mountains, to help set them on an upward spiral in life, to help inspire them forward, to overcome addictions, to overcome PTSD as vets, or just kids who like getting introduced to the adventure of the wild, what it's like to be in nature instead of just being stuck in a city. And just to sort of speak to the importance and the seriousness and the impact of that work from the framework of how significant it's been in my own life, how much it's set my own life on a trajectory I could have never predicted or calculated. And so, yeah, definitely looking for 2026 to be a year that I lean more into that as well, and connect and inspire and uplift more.
Yeah, I think you'd be great at that. I mean, obviously, it is what you do on one scale, on one hand, in the classroom. I'm sure day to day, but you have such an excellent command of the language and a way of speaking that I think is powerful. And I think there's definitely a ton of people who would love to get out there and listen to the things you have to say. I think it's a message that people need. I think I think a lot of people are so disconnected from what life is like in the mountains, maybe more now than ever. I think it's funny because I think the most mainstream our sport, our mountain mixed modal sport became more popular this year ever, probably because of one presidential pardon. I think you probably know what I'm talking
Oh
about.
yeah, I know what you're talking about.
But it's like outside of that, it was so weird. It was like worlds colliding when I saw that. I'm like, how does the president of the United States or any of these like old rich like bureaucrats know about our things? Like why why are they here? What are they doing here? It was so crazy.
Yeah, just yeah, you not like you could have sat down and tried to write out a crazy storyline with unexpected twists and turns, and you wouldn't have been able to come up with a storyline that good, for Michelino's whole thing and the presidential pardon at the end of it.
Did you
Um,
write the FKT page for that?
for
No, you did the Teton picnic page.
Yeah, I did the Teton picnic page, not the Grand
Not
Teton.
the actual FKT for the Grand. We should fill folks in here. Maybe that aren't in the FKT space.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I don't. Why don't you tee it off?
Yeah, yeah, I will. So Grand Teton, epic national park. It's just outside of Jackson Hole, which most people are familiar with. I think you and I have both done the Teton picnic. I saw, your post about it, which is a big day. You bike from Jackson to Teton National Park, and then you swim across Jenny Lake. You free climb the Grand, come back down, you swim across again, and then you bike back home. Huge day in the mountains, really fun. The part where you are just running up the Grand is also a very competitive FKT. A lot of the world's greatest mountain runners, Quensley, Killian, the list goes on and on. A lot of people have put crazy fast times on it. An individual went and took down the FKT, meaning he had done it the fastest. He beat the record, which was a very long-standing hard record to beat. And on the way down, he shortcut some of the switchbacks. Switchbacks are when the mountain goes back and forth because it's really steep and it makes it more easily travelable terrain. He kind of just bombed down them, and that is not allowed, especially in a national park where you're supposed to stay on trail at all times. It's not like forest land or BLM. You're supposed to always be on the trails. Most people thought, maybe he just loses the FKT, it just doesn't get recognized. That's not what happened. Yeah, you maybe are closer to the next Cummings than I am.
Yeah, you would assume like, this athlete runs, he cuts corner, and it was on a like previous use trail from before they built the formal trail that they wanted to keep traffic on for erosion reasons and all of that. And so he had this argument that it's like, well, yeah, this is how the record used to be done, is up and down this old climbers trail. However, the trail was signed for being closed, and like that they were going to restore it. And he made the choice to follow the old route. And it's like in my book, like I was a young dirtbag, and I made decisions to, when I didn't have money, to like climb things where I didn't have a permit, or like a decision like that to run straight down an old trail. But it's like, part of the acknowledgement is like, okay, there might be a fine involved with this. Like there might be a little pay to play for this mistake. And you would assume like, okay, you're going to get like a $250 ticket for being off trail and have to do maybe some community service or something. Which, it's like, I would, if I'd made a decision like that and I was caught for it, I was like, okay, like do the time for the crime. But instead of it being something that felt appropriate for the crime in question, the prosecutors decided to like hit him with I forget how long it was. It was definitely more than a year. Like a ban from the parks, and a large fine, and I think maybe even community service on top. It was like a huge amount of punishment for cross-cutting a switchback. And so then that created a whole big back and forth. And they decided to fight it. And yeah, I mean, it escalated and went back and forth in court. And I think he had like lost, and they were going to push ahead with the charges and the fines and the ban, and all the whole works, the whole 9 yards that they were going to hit him with. And then seemingly out of the blue, I don't know, let's say a couple months later, boom, presidential pardon. Yeah, it was quite the ordeal that really sort of like, in some senses polarized, and in some senses brought people together and made people be a little bit discerning, where it's like I think early on, when it was just him not getting the FKT, because that did happen as well. Like early on, they reviewed that he went down the closed trail, and they're like, okay, we can't accept this FKT because
I saw that when it happened. I was like, I looked at the file immediately and I checked it, and I saw that he went down it, and I was like, they're not going to accept that. Like, and I was with a couple other buddies who had actually been to the Grand with me, and they're like, oh no, they're going to let it go. I was like, they're not going to let that go.
Yeah, not anymore. I mean, back when FKT was tiny and vagabond and just like a casual thing hosted on a pro board forum. Like back in those days, they might have been like, yeah, that's the way it used to be done. But now with it being owned by outside and being this whole big thing that blew up during the pandemic, that everybody now knows the term FKT, or almost anybody, at least anybody within the realms of mountaineering and trail running and all of that. It's like, yeah, no, we can't be endorsing things that violate national park regulations. So yeah, like when they said they couldn't accept it, I'm like, no, I totally understand. Like, sure, I can understand that those of us who really love moving in the mountains, like we didn't need a easy trail with soft switchbacks. Like we love just charging up the most direct route on a mountain. So like I can get that, like, well, this is how people used to move in the mountains who really belonged in the mountains, and we didn't need this easy use trail or this easy built trail with switchbacks and graded and all that. But at the same time, now, you know, national parks are built to preserve spaces, and as such, they kind of want to design things and put people through certain traffic patterns to keep them from just cross-cutting everywhere. And in efforts to keep that uniform, it's like you can't have people kind of being special use, where it's like, oh yeah, this is a special case and I'm special, so I get to cut down this other way.
Right.
So
I think definitely most of the people in the trail community were like, yeah, they're like, he did that. He acknowledged it. He didn't try and lie about it, at least not that I saw. So I understood, like, yeah, you don't get the FKT because this is the way we're doing things now. But where it escalated was I think it was a misdemeanor, but it was like a federal charge because it happened. So he was in federal court for taking the wrong trail down in Teton. So this thing, like, I remember seeing a post from, like, he had to move. He was banned from all national parks. His lawyer bills basically, I mean, like, this guy was, you know, a trail athlete. Most of us aren't rich, as you can imagine. And yeah, he's paying fines. And then all of a sudden, I want to know, how does it end up in President Trump's hands, where he, you know, some staff member who's probably like an avid runner. This is how I imagine in my head. None of this is a fact. Don't ever listen to me about anything political. But I just imagine somebody walks into the Oval Office. They go, Mr. President, you're never going to believe it. This guy was in a park and he took the wrong side of the trail and he was running really fast and he's in federal court. And like some guy gave that to him and he's just like, I'll take care of this. It'll be gone. And
we're gonna do away with over prosecution.
It was the liberals. They were all liberals. And just basically stamped it out right there. It was just, yeah, I can't imagine.
That's probably, yeah. Let's just pretend that's spot on. Yeah. What a crazy thing.
When we get Trump on Who the Wild Things Are, we'll ask him, and we'll get his take. He'll probably let us know. He's like, I ran a 4:30 mile in high school. I was very fast, the fastest.
Yep. That's when we'll find out the that truth about just how great of a runner he was.
Yes, and golfer and athlete, and yep. Well, Jason, this was a blast. Running short on time here. Last question, which I think is fitting to kick off here. Anyone in this, you know, I relate to it much more deeply now because I had my own bout with chronic pain and chronic illness. Anybody listening to this that's going through something like that, what would be just one small tidbit of advice, something you could give them?
I would say this. Let's rewind. If you're still feeling healthy and strong and good, get some comprehensive blood work done so you have some baselines for what things look like, what your levels are when you feel great and when you're at your best, so that if you do have something go haywire that's chronic and pervasive and suddenly you're not right anymore and you go to get blood work done then, which is the next step in the recommendation is go get some diagnostics done and really try to get down to the root of what's going on under the hood. Because that gave me insights that gave me the first steps forward for things I could reach for, things I could try out, because I knew what I was trying to improve. So I knew what supplements I could try out. And then, yeah, there is increasing research out there. If you think what you're facing is long COVID or overtraining syndrome, finding those things that support mitochondrial health, finding those things that support healthy inflammation, finding those things that support like neural healing and cardiovascular health, like going down those lists and finding stuff to work on all of that, and being willing to step back and greatly reduce your training load and find other ways of coping that don't involve like straining your body and putting yourself back in the vicious spiral. The sauna was something I found was really useful during those times where I couldn't do much else. I would say be willing, sort of in the same way, right? That I was like, a big part of paragliding is building the correct comprehensive decision-making schema before you put yourself in the situation that you need it in order to make a good decision. In a way, you have to step back and kind of be willing to accumulate the data and the research. And I'm thinking about like putting together like a roadmap of things I've tried and why, and what's helped move me forward, what's made improvements, where you can get it from, and like putting that out in some sort of like document form to help other people that are going through this. But yeah, you've got to sort of know what the mechanism is in your body that you're aiming to work on by what you're trying. And then you can sort of track whether, okay, when I tried things that specifically target this, did I feel improvement or did I not? And did it solve all of it or did it not? And then you can like move on to the next category and try some things there, and sort of like figure out what combination sort of gets you back on the right track and starts you in the right direction.
Love it. All right, folks, go get your blood work done. Go see what's under the hood. Get your oil changed. Take care of the vehicle. Jason, I appreciate it as always. Hit me up next time you're in Colorado. I might not fly with you, but I'll definitely go on a hike with you.
Heck yeah. We'll make that happen for sure.
All right, brother. Till next time, everybody, stay wild.